Evening, everybody. It's 5:20 on Tuesday evening. This is your closing comment. It's video number 1251. Okay, so I think we need to revisit the difference between an excuse and a reason, because the excuse for today was lockdowns in China, supply chain issues, and numerous and sundry other little items, none of which really had anything to do with what the problem is. And the problem is overvaluations. When you hear analysts talk about valuations, part of that valuation is the discounted cash flow for the future. And when interest rates go up as quickly as they did, that throws all of the numbers completely out of whack. It's the same reason why you see a stock making or losing a penny more or less than they were expected to, and all of a sudden it goes down. Well, the reason it goes down is because some of these imbeciles on Wall Street, who are always long, have extrapolated out those earnings gains, and as soon as they disappear, so does the PE. In any event, it was a very tough day. So let's get right to it. The Dow closed down 809, 2.338%, and the advanced declines were almost 5 to 1 to the downside. The big loser, of course, was the NASDAQ, which had earnings this afternoon on top of everything else, and I'll get to that in a second, but it was down almost 4%, 514, 3.95%. The S&P was down 120, 2.8%. The Russell was down 64, 3.26%, and the transports were down 485, even with the beat for UPS, which traded as high as 192 today on the news, but finished at 183.05, down $6.50, 3.5%. The VIX moved hard to the upside, closed 33.52, up 6.5 or 24%, and we will have to see whether or not it spikes tomorrow morning, as I expect it probably will. Okay, to the earnings. They didn't mean a damn thing. Sherwin-Williams was up 23.5, which was 9.4%. It was up 6% pre-market this morning on their numbers, and that was pretty understandable. GE, on the other hand, beat and closed at 80.59, down 9.25 or 10%. The Google and Microsoft earnings after the close were a mix. Microsoft beat top and bottom. It had closed at 270.22, down 10.5. Then it traded down to 259.5. Last is 267.33. That's down $3. Google was a miss. It had closed 23.90, down 75. It traded all the way down to 22.16. I have the last as 22.28. That's down 237 or 9.5%. However, that number is changing quickly in late trading as the conference call gets underway. The Whirlpool, this just shows you how warped this market is. Whirlpool misses, the stock goes up 8, and all they did was comment that they were going to initiate more buybacks. So that one, which traded up 8.29, had traded as high as 195. Remember that one this morning was trading 180. And I want to mention the Apple, because clearly that's going to be an issue. They report on Thursday. The stock closed 156.80, down 608, but on the earnings for Microsoft and Google and aftermarket, it has traded down as low as 150.57. Just to give you a reminder that when the stock bottomed in March, the absolute low was 150.10, and I'd be real surprised to see that hold. Okay, I want to get into the futures because I have had a chance to talk to Dennis, and I was right. Um, Although he's already out, he was long the gold and took $12 out of it today. But I'll show you the chart because he's now stuck in what he said. He doesn't have a position. And frankly, one of the comments that he made to me tonight was sometimes it's better to have no position if you can't make a decision about it. And basically, we are in a no man's land here. He is still looking at 1897 and a half, which is right about there as support, but he also has 1930 and change as resistance. So it's kind of a no man's land. I think if it goes down, he may be interested in buying it, but we'll have to see. Clearly has rolled over, but again, this has been the area 1892.20. Right across this bottom, and that was also in the same area as the breakout to the upside. So I just want to remind everybody that we do have that metals, gold in particular, only trading account that Dennis does without a fee, just a participation in profit. So no gain, he doesn't get paid. So you can imagine how diligently he works on that. The other thing that he said was that he thinks that the dollar might have a little bit more room. Remember that I mentioned a couple of times in the last week or so that this area around 102.5 to 103, show you the long term, this is where the dollar goes to die. This is 104. This is 103.96. He's looking for an intraday high of 103.13 before it comes back down. Um, you know, I can't recommend strongly enough that you need to be in futures or in commodities in some way as a way to combat inflation. I know that he's up in excess of 40% year to date. Even Jeff Gunlack, when he was on CNBC the other day, specifically said 60-40 stocks and bonds is a dead issue. He uses a 25% cash, 25% stock, 25% bonds, and 25% commodities. You need exposure there. It's coming out of your pocket in inflation costs when you eat. So, um, okay, so we saw what the oil, the oil. Yeah, I wanted to mention this very specifically. The oil was higher again. Let me go back to the daily nearby and the oil. It was up $3.14 today. It did trade about a dollar higher, but what's important here is that we never even touched yesterday's low. We had a higher high and a higher low today, and in point of fact, the close at 101.70 was above yesterday's entire range. Yesterday's high was 101.55. You may not think that that's overwhelmingly important, but I will tell you, technically speaking, it absolutely is. And I'm going to draw this trend line now because it seems apropos, and that's what we'd be looking to get through. If I draw it slightly more steep to the closer tops, you would see that not only have we broken above it, but on the pullback, we stayed above it. And this trend line goes right through here. So I'm thinking that this is pretty interesting. Also, I made specific mention of the fact that the MACD was getting a little wobbly here, couldn't make up its mind. I'll show you on the very short term that that is exactly the same thing that has been happening with the moving averages. The 5 day above the 20, below the 20, almost actually hit it, and they both closed within pennies of each other. The 5 day is at 101.66 and the 20 day is at 101.50. So we actually have, we're actually look like we're set up to move higher. All right, everyone. I hope it didn't hurt too much today. It was ugly. Have a good evening. I'll be back in the morning.